Everyone wants fast weight loss, but what happens when you shut down your hunger instead of fixing your metabolism and helping your hormones and your thyroid, which are the fuel behind a very good functioning metabolism? We're going to talk about GLP-1s. And the reason that I'm doing this, and I feel so strongly called to talk about this, and I know I've done a few episodes on this, but it's just becoming more prominent. These peptides and GLP-1s are like taking over. Now, before I dive into what I'm going to talk about today and what I'm seeing and the dangers that I'm seeing, I want you to know one thing. I'm not against GLP-1s and I'm not against peptides. I think that they are the future of medicine, very much so. But the reason that I want to talk about this and I want to really educate you guys on what you need to be doing if you decide to go on one is that there are very specific things that you should be doing before you ever go on a GLP-1. But the thing that's happening is that I'm seeing a lot of people that are buying their GLP-1s and peptides off of the China black market. So they're getting it from there. And it's like, well, you don't really know what they're putting in there. You don't know where they're coming from. I do get peptides, and I get my peptides from a company that is actually out of Ohio, and everything is made in the US. They third party tested. And I've used them. I trust them. I've met the owners of them. I've listened to the owner at a conference and talked about that. So I've grown to really love their products, and they can be bought without going through a prescriber, which is why so many people are able to get access to GLP-1s now, is because you can get them without a provider and a prescription. But the dangerous part about that is, do you know how to dose properly? Do you know how to cycle? Because you should be cycling on and off. And there's just so many things that can affect. Now, let's talk about why people go on GLP-1s. People go on GLP-1s to lose weight out of desperation and exhaustion and shame. And it's, well, if I can just take this thing and quickly lose the weight, I will feel better about myself and all that. I get that because I have people that have been on GLP-1 journeys for like 3 years. And I'll give you this story real quick. So this person has been on a GLP-1 for 3 years, and she lost all of the weight that she wanted to lose before she came and started working with me. So she lost all this weight, and now she came to me and she'd never really done like the in-depth blood work to find out like what's really going on. What does her body need? But she's dealing with brain fog and extreme fatigue and barely eating and no exercising and barely drinking any water and pretty much living on caffeine and a little bit of food here and there. And if you are on a GLP-1 and that's what you're doing is barely eating, there are a lot of things that are going to happen. Some of the side effects that are happening that I'm seeing is there's something called stomach paralysis. And one of those, and it's not that it's necessarily the GLP-1 that is causing it, but it's because you're not eating. So if you are on a GLP-1 and you're barely eating, but you're still dealing with constipation, not being able to go to the bathroom, because that's something that I read online a lot. Like these are real people on TikTok that I'm seeing. I'll see a post and someone's talking about like GLP-1s and how they'll take the shot and for 2 days they won't eat because they're just not hungry, and that's how much it suppresses your appetite. Here's the thing. If you are on a GLP-1 and on injection day and a day after, you can't eat because it suppressed your appetite so much, that's too high of a dose. Like your body is not made for that. It would be different if you were strategically doing a fast that was like, hey, spiritually and emotionally and mentally, I'm going to be doing this fast. But this is completely different. So what's happening is people are taking the injections, and on day one, they're just nauseous. They're dizzy, they're nauseous. Some are laid up on the couch. Some are cramping. Some have extreme constipation, and the constipation comes from not eating. So if you're not eating, you're not pooping. If you're constipated, you don't feel good. You got brain fog, you're bloated, and it's uncomfortable. So it slows down your digestion. So that's one of the things that's happening. Extreme hair loss is happening. And if hair loss is happening, trust me, it is not the GLP-1 that is causing the hair loss. It is the vitamin and mineral deficiencies. You're micronutrient deficient, you're macronutrient deficient because you're not eating. That's why you're losing weight. It's so extreme. So you lose hair and you're also going to lose a lot of muscle. So back to this girl that I'm working with, 3 years into GLP-1, and we did her blood work. And I can't go into detail of all the things, but one of the things that can happen with GLP-1s is it will deplete you. If you're not careful, it will deplete you of your B vitamins, and it can really mess up your iron as well. So you have to be extremely careful because number one, you're not eating as much as you were before if you were on a full dose. Microdosing is completely different. I've done microdosing before, and it actually worked to get my inflammation down, and it helped with all of that. So, not against it, guys, but it's the high dose stuff. I've seen some really dangerous stuff, trust me, guys. I've had people that were doing it and they were just violently ill. I've had people that this was before they were working with me, they go on it and they were on it and they lose 40 pounds. And the minute, I'm not kidding, the minute that they got off of it, they gained a pound to two a week consecutively until they had gained back more weight than they had ever lost on it. That's what happens. Because if you get off of it and it's not suppressing your appetite anymore, and you go back to eating the way that you were before because you didn't even learn how to feed your body, you just stopped eating. The most important thing that you could ever do for your health and yourself is learn how to feed your body. Learn how to feed your body with proper nutrition. That is the vital thing that you can learn. So with this gal, so we ended up doing a body scan for her because I was like, well, hey, you're at your ideal weight. We're not focused on losing more weight here, but let's see where your body fat percentage is and where your muscle mass is so that we know like where to go from here. So we did that. And she's at her goal weight. And she was basically like what you call skinny fat. So you can be thin, but still have a really high body fat percentage. And what that means is you have very little muscle, which is one of the most dangerous things for your health. What's happening, which is so crazy, but what's happening with the GLP-1 industry is in the whole GLP-1 arena, people are becoming skinny obsessed again. This happened like years ago, and then we got away from that, but now it's back to let me be as skinny as I possibly can, which is not healthy. And you're seeing it in female actresses as well. And I remember very early on, this is when I knew this was going to be a problem. Very early on, when the GLP-1s came out and it was becoming sort of like a mainstream thing. You know how something takes off when some Hollywood person starts talking about it, and probably some Kardashian, or this specific one was, and I don't even watch this, but I just saw an interview of it, one of the Real Housewives. I remember seeing this thing where they talked about, oh yeah, like GLP-1s are great because I can just take this GLP-1 shot and it keeps my weight down. I can be thin, but I can still be over here doing whatever I want, and I don't have to work as hard to make sure that I stay healthy or fit or thin. And in that moment in time, I was like, this is going to be a problem because it's that gateway to, hey, this is a quick fix and I can just take this injection without doing the work to earn the weight loss and keep my body healthy. So this person that I'm talking about, she ended up having super high body fat. And I was like, listen, if you want to be healthy and strong, which is what her goal is, these are things that we're going to need to do. But this is why this happened. Yes, you lost a ton of weight, but what you want is your muscle to be healthy. And if you, so here's the thing, if you are on a GLP-1 and you're not eating enough protein, drinking water, or working out, it's a recipe for disaster. And this is the thing that like really, really just like breaks my heart because I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. It's not that complicated. So, some other things that people are talking about is anxiety and depression. So, some of the GLP-1s are actually dopamine precursors. So, it will affect your dopamines. And this is why the working out is so important. Doing all these other things, not just taking an injection, not eating. Also, not eating will cause anxiety and depression because I just had this conversation with a client of mine who has had a really hard time eating enough. And I was like, listen, like you have to understand one thing. Sometimes when you have anxiety, it's literally because you need to eat because you haven't been eating and your body's just like, give me something to eat because I'm malnourished. And she's like, yeah, you're right. Because I was feeling anxious this one day and I ate a meal and my anxiety went away. And I'm like, exactly. Because your body was like, I'm starving. I just need some food. And so that's the other thing that happens. Digestion slows down, as I said, nausea and acid reflux too. Like something that happens when you fast, because I sometimes I do 72-hour fasts for spiritual and mental reasons and cleansing and healing, but on a very deep level. And I get great results from it. I don't do it for weight loss or anything like that. I do it for these other reasons. But one of the things that can happen and that I notice sometimes by day 3, I'll get a little bit of heartburn even though I'm not eating. And that's just what happens sometimes when you don't eat enough. And then that the rebound of weight gain, which is what I talked about real quick. But here's the thing. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Your thyroid is the fire to your metabolism. And one of the number one things that will mess up your thyroid is if for long periods of time you don't eat enough. Like you're in too much of a calorie deficit for long periods of time. So this is what's so wild to watch is yes, you may lose a whole bunch of weight, but the other question that you need to ask yourself is how are my hormones doing? How is my thyroid doing? How is my muscle health? And how is my metabolic health? What is happening there? The thing that's really heartbreaking for me is how people are okay with dealing with all these side effects just because they're losing weight very quickly. Like they're just okay with it. And I'm like, at what point do the pros outweigh the cost? What is it costing you? Now, I I get this. Like I also see women that are like, until you have been so ashamed of yourself and you're crying in front of the mirror because you don't want to get undressed in front of your husband, you don't want to be in family pictures because you're just so embarrassed with yourself. Until, that has happened to you, don't talk to me about taking a GLP-1. I get that. Like, I can't resonate with that because I've never been in that situation to that extent. I've been overweight before, but not to that extent where I was like, oh, I don't want to be in a picture or anything like that. But you still have to ask yourself, like, at what cost? If you are doing it the smart way, by all means do it. But if you are doing it, quote unquote, the lazy way, the cop out way, there will be a cost to your health. Because at some point you're going to be like, well, I don't know that I want to continue taking this shot. And so you're going to get off and then boom, what then? What happens then? And that's the part that is like really bad for your health because I've seen it over and over. I've seen it. So those are just things to ask yourself. And so some of the psychological cost of it is that you do get a loss of the hunger cues, which for some people, that's fine. Like they talk about food noise, that food noise goes away. And you still have to ask yourself, are you eating enough to support your metabolic health? You still got to ask yourself that question. And if you're not, you're probably on too high of a dose. If you have fear of eating without the drug, that's a psychological cost because food should not be feared, nor should it control you. And that's when food becomes dangerous again, because if you're afraid of food, that's an unhealthy relationship with food. So, and then there's this like disconnection. Here's the other thing that I see is there's a disconnection from the body. So now you've just created something that's kind of a monster where it's like that's you're dependent on this drug. That's not freedom. If you're dependent on this drug to lose weight and keep it off for the rest of your life, that is not freedom. That is dependency. And so you just want to ask yourself like those questions. Again, I want to reiterate here. I have seen GLP-1s do amazing things. I've seen them do amazing things. I am speaking to the extreme right now. There are some GLP-3s, like peptides coming out that are GLP-3s, and they tend to have a little bit less side effects. There's one called Zepbound that people are raving about. Whether or not that's going to be something that's like the big thing and then all of a sudden it dies down, who knows? Again, do I think that peptides are the future? Yes, as long as they don't get abused. So I've had this conversation with my doctor, who's Dr. Sabrina Solt. Love her. We're good friends, but she's like the original peptide queen. I've had her on my show a few times. We talk about peptides and stem cells. And the way that she explains it, which I agree with it too, is that peptides are not the thing to go to if you're not already doing the foundational work. Peptides are the cherry on top. So, like, let's say I did not know how to feed my body. I did not know how to get protein, drink enough water. I'm not making myself do any of those things. I'm just kind of, whatever. I'm not doing any daily habits that I should be to support my health. I'm not even exercising. The last thing that I should do is get on a GLP-1. You hear me? The last thing. Because a GLP-1 for weight loss or anything, inflammation, weight loss, skin health, whatever the case may be, any kind of peptide is the cherry on top of what you're already doing. It is not the fix it all. Let's say, for example, you went on a peptide for growth hormone and you went on that peptide, but because you wanted to like really cut, because that's like fat loss, but your cortisol is hijacked and your thyroid is not in a good place, you are wasting your money. And so this is what I mean by it being a dangerous thing when people start doing these things, taking these things without any kind of professional help. If you're not doing blood work and knowing and understanding what kind of vitamins and minerals that you're deficient in and not understanding what you need to be eating. That's the dangerous part. Very, very dangerous part. Hear me when I say this. You need to do the foundational work first, which is exactly what I teach in my program. Like we're a couple weeks into the 6-week program with a bunch of people in there, and it's 6 weeks of me teaching you the foundations. And it is wild to watch what happens when people start applying things, daily habits, and they start applying these foundational things: what to eat, how much to eat, protein first, water, getting exercise in, making sure they're getting sleep, which is very, very important. If you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And they're doing all of this without GLP-1s. And I have people that have lost 20 pounds in a few months just by taking those steps. No GLP-1s. Now, if someone is on a GLP-1, this is actually a perfect program for someone that's on a GLP-1. Why? Because it teaches you the foundational things that you should be doing. and that you need to be knowing. So if you ever want to get off of GLP-1, you've learned how to eat healthy and take care of yourself. So another thing that really scares me about the GLP-1s is that people will go on them and you lose lots of weight, which is fat loss. But if you're not working out, you're also losing a lot of muscle, which is what happened to this gal. And now it's like, whoa, like I really need to start exercising. You should be exercising from the beginning. If you are exercising from the beginning and eating enough protein and drinking enough water, imagine what your GLP-1 could do then. Just imagine. It would work even faster and better because your GLP-1 is supplementing your lifestyle. So think very clearly about that. Again, just reiterating here, like it's not a one-time fix it all. It's not something that you want to be relying on for the rest of your life. And it's also something that you should be cycling on and off from. It's not something that you should be on continuously. So keep that stuff in mind. And if you are on a GLP-1, be very safe, but make sure that you're doing these other foundational things. And if you're someone that's like, hey, I need to get blood work done so I can really understand where things are at, yeah, come to me, www.undietdietyou.com. You can book a consultation there and we'll get your blood work done. Here's the other thing that I want to tell you. 2 people now that have been on GLP-1s. One would get violently ill on a GLP-1. The other one, she would feel better in terms of depression on a GLP-1, but she didn't lose a single pound. Well, the reason that she didn't lose a single pound on that, she did start losing weight when she started putting into practice like the foundations of nutrition and what she should be eating, protein, all of that stuff. But then it stalled. And then she was on that GLP-1 for a long time. And finally I was like, that GLP-1's not doing anything for you. Like, why are you still sticking that into your body? It was this like safety net. Well, I feel like if I don't take it, like I'll, gain weight back and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like you didn't really lose weight on it. Got off of it. And eventually we found out that she had extreme mold toxicity. So if you're someone that has has mold toxicity, heavy metals, all of that stuff, your body is going to fight back because that stuff puts your body in a high stress state, which is high cortisol. And when you have high cortisol, you're going to have belly fat, face inflammation, puffy face, fat gain around your hips and your arms and stuff like that. And now you're just like throwing all this money down the drain that you're spending on a GLP-1 because you have this other stuff going on, which is why the testing is so important. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and really take it to heart. Again, last time that I want to tell you, I'm not against them. I am against them being abused and being used in a wrong way because it's not going to help your health long term. Thanks for tuning into the Lizzie Ens Show. If you're ready to take the next step to transforming your health and life, visit www.undietdietyou.com for all my resources and to book your consultation today. Don't forget to subscribe and join me each week for more tips, inspiration, and conversations with phenomenal guests to help you feel your best. See you guys next week.